You know what? I forgot how to add emotes and manage the emotes. Community? Yeah, I don't... Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Guys, you have to excuse the unceremonial... And I'm going to be fancy on YouTube, by the way. I'm not going to do this trashy kick stuff. But you'll have to excuse the unceremonial way in which I've just gone live. I figure that if I didn't do this, I would never do it, right? So we're actually going to have a pretty comprehensive stream today. Oh, yeah, here, found it. Okay. Now membership is right here. How do I add the emotes? Okay. Emoji. I can add as many as I want. Add another. Okay, can't do that. Okay, we're gonna just replace this. Okay. All right, we have an ACP emote available to everyone. Okay, perfect. How's the buffering? Is there any buffering, guys? What's going on? Let me know. I didn't change any of the settings. It's all good? Okay. Yeah, there's some YouTube heads that are gonna be here that never made the migration over to Kick, right? It's okay. We are just... I could have put a waiting room, but how's the guys, the emotes are automatically unlocked. You don't have to buy anything. Should be here now. Fuck, it's not, huh? Here we are. There's Jackson. Okay, we can begin. Welcome everybody to the stream. This is my first time streaming actually since just about the time that Jackson got banned on YouTube. And I stopped streaming on YouTube because YouTube censorship at that time had just grown out of control, you know. Just as it just became unbearable, walking on the eggshells, just worried about, is it going to be the day that, you know, this is going to happen. So, you know, I came back here because I don't stream on Kick every day. It's only about 3 times a week. I'm going to make the effort to start streaming more on YouTube. I have been neglecting the YouTube channel. I haven't been uploading at all. And the reason for that is mainly just the time commitments that have come with the American Communist Party, which is the subject and topic of this video, right? So we launched ACP in 2024. A lot of you already know that. Jackson's on the executive board. I'm the executive chairman. That's taken up all my time commitments. But in the interest of, you know, introducing more people to the party, and I guess having the opportunity to clarify some of the misconceptions I've been seeing on YouTube since I've been gone, you know, we're going to talk about the American Communist Party. We're going to talk about what it's all about, why you should join, what we've been up to, what we've been doing, and, you know, the plans for 2026 for Infrared, you know, because this is my first time streaming in years on YouTube, actually. And I decided I was going to start streaming, you know, because since Jackson's back, now I know that the censorship isn't going to be too crazy like it was before, right? You're just randomly going to get banned. So October 7th, I don't know if there's keywords. That was when he got banned, you know, and then it just was a clear signal that you couldn't cover the topic of Israel. You couldn't cover the topic of U.S. foreign policy with any directness, with any frankness, you know. You'd have to be walking on eggshells. So I basically, what's up, Jackson? Yeah, we mod Jackson up. So Jackson's back, I'm back. Basically, you know. So, yeah. But I want to add as moderator. Absolutely. Managing moderator. All right. So, yeah. So, you know, we're back. I'm back. I want to tell you guys what I've been up to since we've been gone from you. A lot of people are like, what happened? I disappeared from the face of the earth. No, I've been streaming on Kick. Kick.com/infrared. I'm not going to stop streaming on Kick entirely. Kick is where, you know, I like streaming more. YouTube is a little more of a serious environment. But you know what? I'm getting older. You know, I'm 29, so maybe I should start maturing more and just kidding. I was like, wait a second. I'm actually a normal guy. Don't worry. So, in any case, you know, the American Communist Party, for a lot of people here, it's not going to be news. For most of you, it's going to be news, okay? For most of you, it's going to be news, okay? So the American Communist Party was the reconstitution of the CPUSA. We launched it in 2024. And I could go into detail about the organizational structure, the kind of environment we have. I could do all that. But what I want to do for this stream is show all of you what we do. I want to show you guys what we do on a regular basis. I want to show you guys the things we've been doing. I want to show you guys the things our chapters have been doing. And I want to lay out to you, first of all, why do we need the American Communist Party? Okay? If you're an American, if you live in the United States or you live in Canada, which is pretty much the same thing, if we're being practical, you know. If we're being completely honest about that, then we can just frankly admit and be sober about the fact that the existing political superstructure in the United States is not viable and it's not tenable. There are a lot of people, like Nick Fuentes, who, by the way, said that I killed Charlie Kirk. In the same breath that he claims that Candace Owens is insane and that there's no merit to any of the things she's saying and she's completely bankrupt, This guy said that I killed Charlie Kirk. He actually blamed the ACP for Charlie Kirk's death. So there's some people like that make a career off of offering political commentary on the existing political system we have. The Democrats, the Republicans, Trump, Vance, whatever, Gavin Newsom. But for those of you that have the foresight to see where all this is kind of going, it's pretty clear that the contradictions within the United States cannot be contained by the existing political superstructure that we have. Our country is headed towards some kind of civil war. There are already disputes between the federal government and state Democrat governments over the control of the military. The courts are basically determining the legitimacy of the regime or trying to or grappling around that subject, and everything's tossed up in the air and nothing has been resolved. So there's something deeply rotten about the state of U.S. politics. And although it's convenient, I understand the convenience of looking at things in terms of Democrats and Republicans. I understand there's a convenience. You're familiar with that. We as Americans, and by the way, I'm not claiming I have all the solutions, we're going to have to organize in some capacity and build a semblance of order and civilization from scratch. Because when things start to go dark, and when the inevitable does come, which is civil war, which is anarchy, which is chaos, which is warlordism, we're going to need a solid foundation to rely on for the basics, you know? And we the people, we have to build from scratch a future country. We have to build a future state. I know this sounds crazy and overly ambitious, but look at the federal government response to the most recent natural disasters. Look at the federal government response to the decaying infrastructure and basic neglect of the communities across this country, you know? We're already in a kind of post-apocalyptic state when you really think about it. We're dancing around the subject, and a lot of people don't want to confront this fact because it's too much. It's way too much. And, you know, I don't mean to be dramatic. I'm not trying to impose a sense of urgency. But what I am saying is that you better start getting connected with like-minded people. And there are a lot of alternatives you can look at, or options that claim to be alternatives. There's some people that are trying to oppose the government on the basis of racialism. So they advocate for white nationalism, or they advocate for something else. They're not going to contribute to a future of a reconstituted and united country. They're going to contribute to the chaos and balkanization that we have ahead of us. What sets us apart is we have no tolerance for racial division. We uphold America's history, its heritage, and what we understand its values to be. But at the end of the day, our party is capable of unifying this country. People that sow and play into the racial division are not going to have a seat at the table in any future unified country. So this immediately sets us apart from 99% of the people, you know, who claim to be dissidents or whatever, right? There are all sorts of other kind of eccentric conspiracy theorists and other types that offer commentary, but they can't organize. Some of the people that do organize, they just have cults, okay? Our party is built on a model that's called democratic centralism historically. So what that basically means is that you join your local chapter level, you can immediately start getting connected and getting to work. You can start attending the meetings. There are plenty of people that will help you out when it comes to the education side of things. And you can just start getting to work, doing good work. And with enough commitment, you'll have a seat at the table in the basic decision-making structures of the party. When you become a full cadre of the party, you have a vote, one man, one vote, right? You get to vote your representative to the Central Committee. And I think in 2026, actually, we're going to be convening our National Congress, where the future of the entire leadership body is going to be determined. Myself included. I'm executive chairman right now, and I wasn't elected into this position because we had to start the party. We had nothing. We had to start it with some semblance of organization. So that's happening this year. So if you join the party in January, by the time of our National Congress, there's going to be plenty of time to contribute to a culture of lively debate, discussion, and, you know, you're going to be represented, right? But in any case, you know, I know it's really difficult to jump right into a party you don't know, you don't understand, you're not familiar with. It could sound scary. A lot of people associate, you know, alternative organized formations in the United States with cults, and for good reason, because most of them are cults, frankly. Most of them function as cults. Most of them have a lot of personality issues and psychiatric issues and stuff. So you really can only understand what our party is when you join it. When you join it and in good faith, you take inventory of what we're all about, what kind of personnel we have, and what our attitude toward the future of this country is. And I wouldn't be here on YouTube if not for the fact that our party needs to reach more people, okay? I'm just saying this very frankly. We need to reach more people, right? I've been streaming on Kick for years, and that's only because I have an existing, you know, we call ourselves the Infrared, the Guerrilla Army, right? But I'm back on YouTube because I want to reach more people. I want to spread the message more about the American Communist Party. And that's what the subject of this video is actually about. All your questions, you can ask questions. I'll be clarifying all of them. And, you know, it's one thing to sit here passively and witness what's going on in this country. Washington is occupied. It's just a fact. We don't have popular sovereignty. We don't have a stake in this country. And we don't have any relationship to the power that governs us whatsoever. Now, we can talk about Gavin Newsom and J.D. Vance and Trump, and we can endlessly babble about these things. We can endlessly babble about U.S. politics and what goes on in Washington, D.C. But if you are educated and if you're familiar with how deep the corruption goes, then you know as well as I that there's only one solution. And that's not a solution we can impose ourselves. It's a solution the system is going to impose on itself when it implodes, because it's not viable and it's not sustainable. There are too many contradictions within this country that the system cannot contain. For example, the necessity of giving every American a chance at a dignified, decent life, the pursuit of happiness is what we call it, right? And squaring that with retaining the control of the monopolists and the financial capitalists who have completely captured our country and have captured it at least since the late 19th century, right? Our country is fully occupied by private interests who won't let go of it. And this is leading to an immense social discontent and anger and rage in this country. And the first form that's going to take is racial, because people don't understand what they're dealing with. So people are angry, people are upset, people see the dysfunction, how the system's not working for them. So the first thing that they're going to do is turn to racial division. They're going to turn to pre-existing divisions, and those are going to be amplifying. The current system is not going to be able to contain those. Frankly, the current system can't even contain the contradiction between Donald Trump, right, and the existing institutions of U.S. politics and you know, the Constitution itself. It can't. Trump's popular mandate that he got elected on absolutely was in excess of politics as usual in this country. Jennifer, what's up? Thank you so much. And that's absolutely a fact, okay? But the same thing, the same reasons people voted for Trump, which is that the system wasn't working for them anymore, that's also empowered him with extraordinary, far-reaching powers. He's become more than an imperial president, and this has put him in conflict with the courts. And I'm not blaming Trump for everything, because this is clearly the direction the U.S. has been going in for decades. We can look at it, okay? We can look at Reagan, Bush Sr., we can look at Clinton, Bush Jr., which more of you are probably familiar with the Patriot Act. We could look at Obama. It doesn't, and then we could look at Biden after Trump. Actually, this is the first stream I've done since Trump has gotten elected, right? So the same things that have, the same problems with our system that led people to vote for Trump, with politics as usual, that's empowered him with a level of control and authority that is just not enumerated anywhere in our social contract. And now we can see very clearly, Trump has deceived his supporters. He wasn't beholden to the will. The masses wanted to give Trump a popular mandate so that he would be their warrior. He would, at all costs, even if it came at the expense of the regular formal procedures of government, they wanted the swamp to be drained. They wanted their interests to be affirmed and upheld. Okay? But what are they seeing now? Trump is in bed with Netanyahu. Trump is in the Epstein files. He's absolutely captured by this international network, this mysterious international network, which is tied to Silicon Valley, which is tied to Israel with Netanyahu and the Likudniks, which is tied to the city of London. There's this kind of shadow global ruling class that has been trying to assert a new path. I don't know. People are calling it feudalism. People are calling it a lot of things. Techno-feudalism. In any case, he's doing a lot that is in excess of what he was voted in for on behalf of this global gang, this global ruling clique, okay? This, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not saying that the answer is to go back to Democrats, because you can't. Because it was Biden that laid the foundation. And Trump is also, this is something you should also keep in mind, Trump is laying the foundation for the possibility if Democrats return in 2028, it's not like they're going to revert all of these unconstitutional things Trump has been pursuing. So this is how the ruling class is playing a game with itself as a way to redirect and control mass anger and grievance with the system. Okay, and that's just a fact. And they're all part of the same team because they're both on the Epstein files. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are in the Epstein files. That's a fact. They play a game with each other where it's like they're playing a ball game. The ball is the unrest and anger of the masses. When it's Trump's turn to have the ball, he pretends that he is avenging their interests. He is fulfilling their interests. He's channeling their rage. Okay, then when Trump fucks up, the ball passes to the Democrats. And back and forth and back and forth. And meanwhile, these are the same people on the same private jet going to the same fucking island with Jeffrey Epstein. And that's just a fact. That's just a rotten, unfortunate truth. And now the conflict has gone beyond the elites and has become a conflict among the American people, because the conflict is at the level of institutional dysfunction. The top elites, Trump, the Clintons, whatever, they may all be on the same team with each other, but there's a huge bureaucracy. There's a huge government bureaucracy. There's all of these other forms of hegemony in the institutions, media, academia, all of these NGOs. And those influence politics at the most local level. Okay? And at this, and then on the Republican side of things, you have the mega churches, you have the evangelical churches. So you have all of these civil institutions, unofficial, non-government institutions that have to be these retainers of the duopoly game that the ruling class is playing. And that is where the civil conflict is coming from. Very reluctantly, the ruling class is going to have to acquiesce to a civil war. That's what's pushing the country in a direction of the Civil War. They created this duopoly system, which was meant to manage and contain the contradictions in this country. But those contradictions are now imploding our institutions. People don't trust the ruling institutions anymore. And there's now a conflict between this contradiction, which the ruling class has always tried to manage, and the Constitution itself. Because the Constitution and the form of government, in form, I'm saying, that we've had for hundreds of years, cannot account for the degree of partisanship and civil strife that we're now facing. And guys, I'm not here to sell you on any optimism in the short term. I'm here to give you the blunt truth that there's no fucking way out of this. A civil war is coming in this country. I can't tell you when it's coming. I can't tell you it's coming in 2026, but I'd keep my eye on the midterm elections, which are almost certainly going to be contested because of the conflict between the Democrats and Republicans over the drawing of the electoral districts. I can almost certainly tell you that the election of 2028 will not be easy and will be contested. And these are precisely the things that create an atmosphere of civil war. And civil war can also mean civil strife. What's keeping at bay the implosion of civil society, the formation of gangs, violence on a mass scale? We saw what they did with Charlie Kirk. Clearly, they're trying to get ahead of it in some kind of way by staging that. They did assassinate him, but staging that it was an extension of this duopoly thing with the left liberals and the right. So clearly they're trying to get ahead of it in some kind of way. That's absolutely clear. But more importantly, what is preventing that now from accelerating into something out of control? Well, the unified armed forces of the state. But guess what is breaking down? And you see it in the news all the time. You see it on a regular basis on the news. There's a conflict over the control of the armed forces of the state. It's just recently some Democratic congressmen were on record. They filmed a video of themselves telling members of the armed forces and of the military to resist unconstitutional and unlawful orders. That's up for interpretation, and it still is in the courts. Mind you, the courts have not resolved any of this. So that is all still up for interpretation, okay? That's a really scary scenario if you're someone who happens to believe in the longevity of American institutions and in the longevity of civil peace in this country. The conflict over the armed forces is the most fundamental breaking. It's the thin line between the semblance of order that we know it's a semblance of order. There's such an explosive, violent rage in this country. We saw it with Luigi. We saw it with a lot of other things. It's waiting to explode. And all of you know that. The immense hatred and grievance and resentment that exists in this country, whether it's racial hatred, whether it's racial grievance, whether it's something irrational, whether it's sexual grievance, we don't fucking know. It's ready to explode. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying in the short term, it's going to be a horrific thing. And don't think that the mere continuity of the government bureaucracy is going to protect us, because it's falling apart as we speak. And we are coming up to a breaking point and a flashpoint where all hell is going to break loose. So you need to be thinking in those terms. You need to be thinking that everything that you see in the news about domestic U.S. politics is foreshadowing. You need to see it. It's a Hoi 4 cutscene. Okay, the fire rises. That's what it is. It's foreshadowing something that is about to happen. This thing that everyone knows is going to happen in their heart of hearts, which is the next U.S. Civil War. We don't have to know all the details of what that would entail. We just have to know it will be chaos, the collapse of civilization, and dysfunction on a mass scale. And if that sounds too outlandish to you, I recommend you read up on countries this has actually happened to. The country my parents came from, okay, ironically, Lebanon, that's what happened during the Lebanese Civil War. It doesn't mean that it's the apocalypse and it's the end of time. Civil war can become something that's normalized. You just have to think of it in terms of Chicago with all the gang violence that happens there all the time. It's just kind of normalized. Yeah, that's going to spread on a mass scale. You know, some people think what I'm saying is so implausible and so outlandish just because of how radically, abruptly different that would be from what we're used to. But you need to start if you're somebody who considers yourself a free thinker, that you're not a sheep, that you're kind of attuned to things that are not being taught to us by our institutions, you need to be thinking in those terms, because that is the story of America in the 21st century. It's all foreshadowing a conclusion, which is going to be civil war, anarchy, and strife on a mass scale. And I've never heard of a rational response to this. Okay? Now, some people ask, well, what about nukes? What about nuclear weapons? And I say, look, we have the ability to annihilate the world dozens of times over. It's not impressive once you have that. The difficult thing becomes controlling the populations that already exist. Now, you can control them with fear on the threat of annihilation and extinction, which is what the U.S. does to the world, by the way, since it bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But that's only one dimension of control. Just because people fear you and are scared that you're going to be killed doesn't mean you know how to control and manage at the microscopic level the fundamentals of what a civilization is, right? So what's going to happen to the nukes? I don't know. Maybe the nukes will be consolidated. Maybe they'll be secured in some kind of way. You know, if you understand the nuclear architecture of sorry, I don't know what to call it. If you understand the system of how nuclear weapons are controlled in the United States, it's not as simple as, you know, taking over a missile silo and then you have them. You know, there's a lot of complexity that's involved and how they get launched and so on and so on. But who controls the nukes won't matter. Because if someone is willing to nuke part of the United States and part of the U.S. population, that's also a game over scenario, you know? The mere threat, you know, this is another thing. Because, again, maybe it's my family background that they came from Lebanon that I understand this. When people are so angry and so upset that they're willing to die, which will happen. Gang members in Chicago, you don't think they're putting their life on the line whenever they have these feuds with other gangs? Conflict creates a cycle of violence and hatred, which makes people irrational. The fear of the extinction by nuclear weapons is not going to be able to contain or keep people under control in this country. It won't. Because people will be so angry, they'll be ready to die, which is just about where Americans seem to be. At least a lot more than you'd think, even now. So it's true that, you know, nukes are controlled in a centralized way. I get that. But they're not enough to maintain control over a country. They're definitely not enough. And by the way, that is up in the air. I mean, is this going to spill over into America nuking itself? I don't know. I can't tell you these things. I sound crazy and outlandish right now. You need to focus on the fundamentals, is that civil war and a breakdown of the system in some kind of form, the political system, is inevitable. Okay? So, what is the American Communist Party? The party was reconstituted. We're a reconstitution of the historical CPUSA in anticipation of this fact. Meaning the party is not interested in running for a presidential election. We may run for congressional or local campaigns to attract more attention to the party. But the party exists to be a nucleus, okay, of a future order within this country. One that first is going to consolidate itself within the existing one. We are, think of it like Noah's Ark, okay? We're trying to build a boat that's going to survive a flood, okay? If you want to, I know it sounds like we're a crazy cult or something, but when you understand that our party is an organization designed to facilitate with ease the coordination of logistics, personnel, and information pursuant to, things like community service, things like labor organizing, being nodes of order and governance within communities. And governance isn't simply about making people fear you. Governance is about being able to deliver for people. And that's what our party does. We deliver for the communities that we can reach. Whether that's community service, whether that's charity, whether that's trying to step in and resolve problems, local corruption, local injustice, we're here to serve the American people. We're here to build a foundation for justice and order in what we anticipate to be a country of future killer clowns on the loose, motivated by racial hatred and division and savagery and cannibalism. That's what the American Communist Party is. There's nothing that can be done to prevent what's going to happen to the USA. Absolutely not. But there is a possibility to weather the storm. There's the possibility that you can join a movement which is trying to prepare. And if you're not ready to join the party, which most of you probably won't be, just hearing about it for the first time ever, then join the infrared community. Join our Discord. I'm not sure if you can find that on the YouTube channel right now, but you can go to infrared.gg, which is our website, and it's there. Join our Discord, join our community, and buzz around, Get an understanding of what our culture is like. Get an understanding, the infrared, okay, which is a movement. It's an online movement. That's a huge part of where the party was drawn from, was from infrared. Another huge part was from Midwestern Marx. Another huge part came from Jackson Hinkle, who just raided the channel. So, the most important thing is you have to educate yourself. And this is why I can't be a grifter who just gives you easy solutions and tells you, oh, you just gotta, I'm gonna feed into your racial and religious prejudices. I can't do that. I can tell you need to start picking up books and educate yourself. And we have a reading list in our party, Literacy is important. Specifically, studying Marxism is important. Why? Because Marxism is a theory of how history changes. And some people have libertarian sympathies. And one of the things I hear libertarians say sometimes is they go, how can you make something a right that requires another person's labor? It's a really common thing I hear all the time. Because that's slavery. If you make something a right that requires other people's labor, that's slavery. That's not true. Human beings always exist in a pre-existing state of mutual dependency. Always. It's from the day you're born, you're dependent on your mother, who in turn is dependent on a family, who in turn is dependent on an entire community and an entire division of labor. That's what it's called. It's a division of labor, right? Each job, each type of work that people do is part of a bigger totality and division of labor. Because think about it, everything's interconnected. Supply chains, you name it, everything's interconnected, Even for a computer programmer to be able to get to work, to drive to work, there needs to be people who are paving the roads and maintaining the infrastructure that allows them to travel from A to B. There needs to be a janitor somewhere that's making sure that everything is kept clean and sanitary. So I don't have to explain to you basic common sense that everything in our society, it's a state of mutual dependency and it's a division of labor. Okay? And people have a job and they get paid for their job, right? But it doesn't matter how much you get paid for your job, because what we produce in common is always going to be more than what people are given individually. The whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. So we produce wealth on a collective level that we will never be able to measure at an individual level. That's what Karl Marx talked about in Capital, by the way. Okay? So what we do with that wealth is our business. It is relevant to us. You don't begin with people just as individuals deciding I'm going to do labor just so I can get, something in return. Because that labor you're doing is part of a bigger division of labor in the first place. There's no such thing as a human being that doesn't already exist in a state of mutual dependency with others. To be human and for there to be a society already assumes a premise of a relationality, not individual labor. Nobody begins as Robinson Crusoe on an island just doing, labor by themselves. That's not the premise of society. The premise of society is relationality. Families, communities, tribes, that's the premise of a civilization, not the individual. So you've been taught in school bullshit, okay? Especially if you grow up in America, you've been taught complete bullshit about the nature of civilization. So this is why we're communists. Our common wealth is our common concern. And the common good should be the supreme principle that governs and guides society. That doesn't mean a perfect society. That doesn't mean everything falls into place in an ideal way. But we should at least have a guiding principle of the common good be supreme over everything else. When it comes to the things that do concern us, we should have this to hold our representatives to the standard of. We can't do that right now. You can't call Ted Cruz and tell him he's not serving the common good because it's not his job to serve the common good. It's not his job to make sure that your kids and your family has enough to live a dignified life. It's not his job to ensure that we don't have crumbling infrastructure or the basics of a united civilization. According to the classical liberal doctrine, which is the foundation of the current American Republic, it's just his job to uphold our negative freedoms, and that's it. So all the corruption you see in DC, like how all the politicians are bought out, that's all legal. It's not corruption, according to our current framework. It's just legal, a bunch of individuals agreeing to do stuff for each other, right? So we need communism as a principle, okay? It doesn't mean that we're creating a utopia. Of course, there's going to be communism, like everything. There's good and there's bad. There will always be good and bad. Everything in life is a combination of good and bad, okay? But you need a principle to guide you. You at least need a principle to measure what's good and to measure what's bad. So that should be very simple to understand, okay? In any case, I've been talking a lot. I actually haven't been talking a lot. But instead of just talking more, why don't I just introduce you to the American Communist Party? Give you a proper introduction. Because one of the things you'll hear, if you search us, is a lot of negative stuff. And one of the common things that I always found really stupid people like to say, this piece of shit. Fucking pop-up ad block. All right. They'll say, well, this party's just online. Because the infrared movement is very online, which is good, by the way, because the internet is information is the most fundamental dimension of battle space, right? But they'll say, well, the American Communist Party is not real. It doesn't actually exist. They just exist online. Okay. So I'm just going to show you the timeline of our online social media account. And what is it actually posting online? Okay. Well, big surprise. It's posting real world activity. Okay. So I was just in Florida earlier this year. And this is some of the things that our party does. Almost all our chapters engage in this kind of activity. So building skills. Okay. They went on a camping trip in the Everglades. And they're trying to navigate the environment. They're trying to learn how to navigate the environment. They're trying to, get accustomed to the terrain, the discomfort, the physical fitness aspect, and why? Well, if we anticipate that there's going to be a breakdown of infrastructure and there's going to be a breakdown of the basics, it doesn't hurt It doesn't hurt to have these kind of skills. It doesn't hurt to be able to navigate the environment you live in.
The bourgeoisie, the ruling class, the elite, the Epstein class want us all weak-minded and weak-bodied, you know? And all communists have been strong historically. Like Che Guevara literally trudged through hurricanes. Mao did the Long March. Lenin hunted and lifted weights and stuff like that. A communist should be strong for his people, and a strong body and a strong mind kind of resides in a strong body. It's all about building that iron discipline, because a communist is supposed to lead the people right through all the BS that the ruling class puts us. So in order to do that, you have to be strong. Point blank, period.
You know, Florida is a place of extremes. You have to learn how to navigate the outdoors, how to make sure that you're safe, somewhat comfortable.
So for people that say we're just online, I mean, what is this? Is this AI? According to them, is this AI? Is this not real?
And beyond that, really, like being outside, you know, and
this is just about the most offline you could possibly be. Okay, and the fact that they're recording it and posting it for you to see is necessary, because had they not done this, you wouldn't have known about it. Okay, you wouldn't have been able to make a fair judgment for yourself about whether this is a party you want something to do with, because this is what the party actually does.
You know, you learn to make use of your tools. You learn what you actually need and how to prepare yourself.
And by the way, guys, the more people that join, it's a division of labor, and they bring with them all their skills, all their knowledge, all their abilities. This is how we grow. This is how we build the future of America. It seems so small. It seems so insignificant, and it seems like such a long shot, but there is no other shot you can take. This is the only solution and the only path forward that I know of. If there's a better path forward, I'm open-minded to hearing what it is. Haven't heard anything that I find particularly convincing. Okay?
For that sort of experience.
If we focus too much on theory and miss our physical wellness, or vice versa, then we end up neglecting the wholeness of the revolutionary that we could be, right? And so at the ACP, we focus not just on theory, but the unity of theory and action, and being fit and getting into nature, so that we can be fully prepared to build a better world for tomorrow.
So this just happened recently, okay? That was a few days ago they posted this. Oregon, what's Oregon been up to? Well, they teamed up with the Burrito Brigade to cook and distribute food for residents in need. Okay, so this is some of the community service. What is Washington up to? They did an investigation most afflicted by the river. ACP Washington mobilized for cleanup efforts in Hamilton, Washington in the wake of historic flooding. Guys, this is the most fundamental and ancient foundation of how states are built. Do you believe it or not? Flooding from rivers and the ability to coordinate labor and mobilize and organize people collectively to provide relief from floods, that is where the states in ancient Babylonia came from. They didn't, a lot of, you'll hear in history that, they came from beating people up and having a big stick and putting people to the sword. Hey, that's easy. Okay, a caveman can do that. That's not how the immense, powerful empires and states were born. They were born because they were able to have a unifying principle that collectively mobilized people and created a division of labor that served the common good. And that's what gave them their authority. That's where the authority came from. It's not simply that it was fear. Even the fear itself was downstream from the fact that these states, call them what you may, could unify people so effectively. You don't want to run afoul with something like that because it has this immense ability to unify people, to create a complex division of labor. So this is what we're doing. Okay, we're going back to barbarism in this country. There's no way to avoid it. But we need, as Americans, in such an individualist culture that we live in, right? We need to acquire the basic skills and the basic ability to work together, to coordinate together, to collectively, and get the work that needs to be done for the people. We may have differences, we may have egos, we may have this, we may have that, but at the end of the day, all we have is our collective power. That's all that makes us a people. And we're so alienated from that in this country that we take it for granted. So look what they've done. Is this online? Is this purely online? They were cleaning debris, and they were lending a hand where they could. Am I saying that, this is millions of people doing this? Am I saying that this is already, on the cusp of becoming the next government in this country? No. I'm just saying the American Communist Party are people who have come together to get work done however we can, however we're able, with what we have. What we have is very modest. And you count our ranks, we don't have millions of people. We don't even have tens of thousands of people. But all it takes is a sound, sober mind to understand and see that this is the only path forward, whatever it is. You have to, ACP, measure it as a sanity check on this country, okay? What's stopping you from joining? What's stopping you from taking initiative? Our chapters are run in a very decentralized way. We give so much room for it. Our finances are decentralized. Reserve members pay $15 dues to the center, which is not much added in total. And almost all the operations in our party are funded by the chapters. Just people with what they have. Totally decentralized. There's so much room for experimentation, for innovation, and for new ideas. What we have as a party is unity. We don't have one will that we impose on everyone. We have unity. Just like the founding of the USA itself. There were different states, but they all came together on the basis of a unified purport, a purport to unity, right? So, this was ACP Michigan. This is the state I live in, okay? They volunteered at Christmas dinner for the elderly in Houghton, Michigan, okay? Texas, what's Texas been up to? They made sure to spend their holidays serving their neighbors in every part of the Metroplex. They volunteered at the food pantry ahead of Christmas to bolster logistics and deliver meals for those in need. Pennsylvania volunteered with Blessings of Hope, a nonprofit dedicated to eliminating food waste and distributing rescued food. Why isn't our government doing that? We all pay taxes, so we're just doing the things that our government's supposed to be, right? But we can complain about it all day. Someone's got to step up and do it. Because our government, it's imploding. You have to see what's going on. You'd have to be blind not to see what's going on in this country. Our government is imploding, okay? It's absolutely imploding. And someone's going to have to step up and be the leadership this country needs. Stop sitting around and waiting for it to happen. It's not going to come. A lot of you guys are sitting around waiting for leaders to come. Okay? I'm here to bluntly tell you nobody's coming to save you. We are going to have to find a way to do it ourselves. Even as modest and small as this, we're going to have to do it ourselves. Nobody's going to come and save us. We, the people, have to figure something out. You have a better idea? I'm open to hearing it. But if you have no idea, then you clearly don't care about the future of this country. Everybody's out only for themselves until they realize, you know what? 95% of what you are is the people. You just are alienated from it. 95%, and that's so modest. 95% of what you are is the community you live in, the country you live in. The words you speak didn't come from you. They were inherited. You learned how to speak. Every single word that you use came and was invented by someone else. Okay? The clothes that you wear were made by somebody else. Everything you do, everything that shapes what you are, comes from somewhere else and someone else. At least 95% of you is that. You're alienated from it and you take it for granted, but that's what we are as human beings. That's what we are as a country. And we have to start somewhere. If our government is failing us, if our system is failing us, we have to start from somewhere. It's not going to fall out of the sky. We, the people, yes, even you, we have to figure it out in some kind of way. Nobody's going to do it for us. We're so used to people doing it for us. And that's okay. We have a huge division of labor. But on the question of governance, on the question of power, on the question of civilization and leadership, each and every one of you is going to need to step up and have a stake in it. We're used to doing our jobs and let the government take care of it. Well, the government's not taking care of it. So it's time for the people of this country to step up. That's what we believe in. That's what, and believe it or not, for all the hatred we get, for all the controversy that we generate, for all the animosity and hostility that's directed against us, that is our simple purport. Nobody's going to do it for us. We have to do it ourselves. For this crime, Nick Fuentes said that we killed Charlie Kirk and that I killed Charlie Kirk, just to deflect from Israel's obvious culpability. What has the ACP done to earn such animosity and hostility? Really, what has it done? Well, you have to think about something. Why is somebody like Nick Fuentes, who gets so much views, who has such a huge following, so much popularity, why was he even mentioning us? Who gave him the order to cast that specific dispersion to blame the ACP for Charlie Kirk's assassination? Well, probably people who have a keen eye for the fact of the obvious, which is that the American Communist Party is the only organization that has a plan, that has a way forward for all dissidents in this country. Because everyone else is divided by race. Everyone else is bogged down in nonsense and gibberish. Everyone else is functionally incapable of unifying into an organization. Some of our critics are leftists, and these leftists, no two of them have the same consciousness or idea of what's right or wrong. You can't even get two of them to work together without eventually a drama. To say nothing of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Unifying people is a very difficult thing to do. Very difficult thing to do. And this is why we unify people. Because the work needs to get done to build something in this country. A lot of people have different ideas about gender and should men wear dresses and and all this nonsense. And people have different religious views as well. That's fine. But what about the work that needs to be done? While you're sitting there gibbering about literally nothing, what about the work that needs to be done that's not being done? What about the sheer neglect of the basics that we all depend upon in common? Well, that's where we step in. ACP North Carolina helped the Amazon workers who are trying to organize, okay? Fighting against the union busters. So they stood with the union. The unionization efforts at the Amazon facilities in North Carolina. Okay? ACP California, which we'll get to because there's more from them I want to show you. They volunteered to cook and serve holiday meals for the homeless. ACP Pennsylvania. They helped the Angel Tree program, okay? If you've heard of that, it's really interesting. Okay? What did California do for Christmas? This is what ACP California did for Christmas.
Someone can be poor while still preserving their dignity and inner strength. But the homeless are not simply excluded. They are brushed aside, treated as if they no longer belong among others. This kind of exclusion strips away any social recognition, not just material security. ACP is aware that ending homelessness cannot rely on pity and charity alone. It requires structural change, guaranteed meaningful work, an end to housing exploitation, the construction of mass housing, and the full reintegration of every person into collective social life. This is what
if we had we not captured this and uploaded it, no one would believe it that this is what we do. That this is 95% of what our party does. And then 5% is capturing it and uploading it. And then 95% is work that you'll never see. Tireless effort, hours, labor, and money that's put in by our rank and file that you will never see or hear about. But because we are good at getting the message out, but because we are effective on social media, people lie and say that we're just online. Because 5% of our effort is directed at putting what we do online, and we do it effectively and more effectively than others. So, you see for yourself. And the only way you're ever going to really know is if you join up. And join. And see what we're up to with your own eyes. Don't take the word of feds. Don't take the word of bad faith actors and bullshitters and liars. Just join yourself and see what it's like. See what kind of people we are. See what kind of human material our organization is made up of. Join and attend a meeting. Just see for yourself what we are. That's the only way you're going to know. Because there is a systematic effort to distort our party's image and reputation to the public eye. On top of all the bad rap that the word communism gets, there's a whole lot of other bullshit, a whole mountain of bullshit that they make up and throw on us. And why? Because they're fucking scared of us. Because although we're very modest in terms of our resources and our personnel, we have an extremely solid principle. We have an extremely solid and effective plan and the know-how to do it. The missing element is who? It's you! You're the missing element. They're terrified of us because they're terrified of you joining us. They're terrified of you finding out the truth, that there is an alternative possible for this country. You don't have to get bogged down in the duopoly bullshit. You don't have to get bogged down in the fake divisions. You don't have to get bogged down in racial hatred and resentment. You have the opportunity and the ability to shake the foundations of the Epstein elite that rules us. It's very, very simple, and it's not rocket science. You pool together our collective strength, power, abilities, and resources, we can move mountains. And they're fucking terrified of that. That's why they had Nick Fuentes tell the public that we killed Charlie Kirk.
he is striving to build in practice. We encourage others to join, organize, and help turn these principles into reality. In the meantime, humility and kindness toward fellow men still matter.
Again, if there's something you feel like is missing when you're seeing this, it's you. You're the one who's missing. Yes, you. You watching this, if you're an American. You're the one who's missing. Stop waiting for others. Stop waiting for someone else. It's you. We want you for the American Communist Party.
Helping others does not solve everything.
You may say, well, what difference would I make? I'm just one person. And you think about it the entirely wrong way, because if everyone had that mentality, nothing could ever get done. And by the way, you just look at our human material and our personnel. Yeah, one person makes all the difference in the world to us. That's how much we value our people and our personnel. And one person, okay, who joins our party becomes a leader in their family, their community. They become a leader because they get educated, they get the skills, they get the know-how, they have the collective solidarity, they have the culture, they have the intelligence, they have the theory. You become a super soldier, so to speak. And it sounds crazy, like a huge exaggeration, but really, you become very above average, very extraordinary. Even one person who joins us.
But it can ease hardship and reduce isolation. Small acts of support help affirm a shared sense of responsibility.
Let's continue, okay? In Iowa City, we have someone who's not part of the city commission, so that's exciting news. ACP New Jersey volunteered for the soup kitchen, okay? Again, with what little we have and with what we're able to do, that's what we do, okay? Some of our chapters are much bigger than others. And we're not always able to do extremely huge, exciting things all the time, but we're always doing something. And that's what our party is all about, okay? ACP New York helped Haiti Liberté. We can talk more about that later. And the U.S. regime policy on Haiti and how that affects us. You know, if you may have heard of the history of the Clintons in Haiti. Now look at this. ACP Colorado are gaining hands-on construction experience, learning advanced fabrication techniques for mass production of affordable housing. Because instead of sitting here and just complaining, we're trying to look for solutions and build. You have to start out with something. Someone's got to take the first step. Okay? So this is what Colorado is up to. So there you go. We have a housing crisis in this country. Well, let's start learning the basics of how to fucking build houses. Okay? That's our response. See, instead of being a slimy politician who tells you they're going to fix our broken system, which is irreparable, and how fucked it is, we're going back to the basics. Let's learn how to build fucking houses. Because one day this entire thing is going to come crashing down, and we're going to need people who know how to do this shit, who selflessly devote themselves to the supreme principle of the common good, to do it. So this is with what little we can do, this is what we're doing. For Thanksgiving in California, volunteered at Midnight Mission, okay? And they were serving the homeless on Skid Row. Because, you know, you can call us commies, you can call us communists, you can have all this prejudice you want, but the difference between us and the Daily Wire, the difference between us and Ben Shapiro and PragerU and all these disgusting Zionist pieces of shit who feed the Americans nothing but filth and lies, the difference between us and the GOP and Fox News and all these people who taught you to hate communists is we care about the people in this country. We do fucking care about the people in this country. We care about the people who live here, including the people that seem so far gone that they'll never come back, including the homeless people on Skid Row, even the ones that got themselves addicted to drugs, and have become totally far gone. We care about them. Ben Shapiro doesn't give a fuck about them. Ben Shapiro said that if you can't afford to live in this country, you should move and go live somewhere else. We say, fuck that. This is our country, and the people who live in this country absolutely are entitled to dignity and housing and living, because we care about the American people. We do fucking care about them. And why do we care about them? In case you're cynical, in case you're wondering why we're not trying to scam like every other politician and piece of shit who makes a living off of selling people false hope and lying to them. Because we know that's a part of us. Because we know 95% of what we are the people. Because the premise of our existence is a relationality and a mutual dependency. That's why we care about the people in this country. Because we're not idiots who think that the premise of our civilization is the individual. The premise of our civilization is the interrelation of individuals. The relationship is what comes first. An infant baby can't enter this world without having first entered in a relationship with some other human being, their mother, who's taking care of them, who's tending to their most basic needs. This is true even when you're an adult. You just take it for granted and don't realize it. And our country, having a country, is the only way we can manage that and be accountable to it. That's what a country is supposed to be. We're supposed to be able to take care of ourselves and take care of our own, because that's what government's supposed to do. Governance and sovereignty at the most fundamental level exists to deliver for people. It exists to deliver for the people that live within it and within its vicinity. Even since the Bronze Age, that's the basic function of governance. To care for the people that live in your country, that live in your land. For us communists, our collective existence and relationality comes first. We should live in a country where we know we can rely on each other. We should live in a country where we know your neighbors and your brothers and sisters won't let you go homeless. They won't let you go get addicted to drugs and ruin your fucking life. That people will give a helping hand and help you out. Your neighbors, your people, your communities. That's the type of country we're trying to build. Where people care about each other, as cringe as that sounds. I mean, but that's the basics. That's the most fundamental thing. You know, Americans are in a state of abandonment. Total despair. Because, you know, this is a society that just doesn't fucking care if you live or you die. Your life has no worth, it has no value, it has no meaningfulness, because you're alienated from your relationality. You're alienated from the entire complex division of labor that produces you. We all are, you know? And the first step to waking up to the truth, I'm not even talking about a utopia, I'm talking about the truth, is understanding is you do have an obligation to care about the people in this country. You do have an obligation to care about the homeless in Skid Row. You do have an obligation to care about the people who think they've been totally abandoned by society. Because that's 95% of what we are. And if we don't tend to the 95% of what we are, even as individuals, our souls become rotten, disfigured, and corrupt. And that's what's going on with the new generations each time. Rottenness, corruption, decadence, degeneracy. What else can we call it? ACP New York worked with Haiti Liberté to restore the building. Texas, they didn't even record a video, okay? That's how busy they were. Survival skills, long hikes, even recreation, why not? Full day of training. They went to the Enchanted Rock State Park to do this, okay? So this included cadre and reserve members. So that could be you. You join, and then day one, you can go do this kind of stuff. So this is what they say. They claim that we're only online and we're so online. Well, no, this is actually the truth. We are online as the infrared movement. We are online, okay? But we're mostly offline, actually. And by the way, we condemned the attacks on the Somali community because regardless of your views on mass immigration, and if you read our party program, we are trying to shut down mass immigration because it's class warfare. But racial hatred, okay, is absolutely a tool of the regime. A, to keep the people divided. B, to deflect from popular rage and anger against them. And you know, the Somalis that live in Minnesota, so many of them are decent, hardworking, good people. And you may think, well, why are all these foreigners and whatever coming? Well, why wouldn't they be coming? We are foreign to ourselves. Look at the homeless on Skid Row. We don't give a shit about them. So yeah, for now, we don't have a coherent national identity. We don't have a coherent sense of national existence. And, you know, we can't really define what it means to be an American in a country where we don't give a shit about the Americans who already live here. How can we coherently define what it means to be an American if we don't even take care of our own people? The only way we define what it means to be an American is if we build a country that actually delivers for its people, that works for its people, that attends to the basic needs of the people who live here. That's how we're going to define what it means to be an American. We're going to define what it means to be an American by fighting for America, by fighting for the American people who live here. That's what's going to define what it means to be an American. What defines your nationality isn't your blood. It's not what you look like. It's not even necessarily your culture. It's what you do for your country and its people. That's what defines you and your national identity. The great struggles and turmoil that a country goes through are what defines it. Now, our party program is to shut down mass immigration. But guess what? These attempts to sow hatred and division against the immigrants who have come here, it's nothing but a sorry excuse for the fact that we don't have a clearly defined American nation. Because the only way you define a nation is by actually working for it. By actually having a nation that gives a shit about the people who live there. That's how you define a nation. So I'm proud that, you know, Minnesota, that they issued this statement. And by the way, for the record, we didn't even give them the order to do that. That's how decentralized we are, okay? We protested against the aggression against the Venezuelan people because every crime our regime commits against foreigners abroad, first of all, it's an indictment on our own souls. It's a debt that is imposed upon us that we don't sign up for. Every intervention, every crime that our regime commits against other nations and other peoples is a debt that is imposed upon us. In not even just our guilty conscience. A real material debt that makes us enemies of people all across the world who would otherwise mean us no harm and that we have nothing against inherently. We unconditionally reject our regime's foreign entanglements. And that's why Lenin said, can a nation be free if it oppresses other nations? It cannot. We can't be free if we have a regime that is going around oppressing, devastating, and attacking other nations. Why? Because the same things it uses against others, it's going to use against us. Because it's the fucking golden rule. The same military occupation of Iraq, the police occupation of Iraq, went to our police departments. All the surplus military vehicles and aid and materials, all that kind of stuff, it all went to the U.S. local police departments to occupy us. The same imperial regime that oppresses, devastates, and destroys other nations Don't forget that its founding sin was swindling and exploiting and oppressing the people of this nation, which it continues to do. Why would you want to empower that apparatus? Why would you want our collective labor and our collective existence as a nation to be devoted to the devastation and destruction and murder and genocide of children around the world? So we have a right to say no to this. Even on a moral level, we have this right. We have a right to say we didn't sign up for this. We have a collective existence. The whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. And right now, that surplus is being used to harass, destroy, exploit, and devastate other people. It's time to start being responsible for our country. It's time to step up and reject these foreign entanglements and regime change operations. These disgusting attacks against the innocent people of the world. Our relationship to the world and other people will define who we are. We do need to have our own country. We need to have our own government because we have our own tradition of sovereignty, because we have our own history, because we have our own means of production, because we have our own complex division of labor and supply chains. That's fine. Let's take care of our people first. I agree. But part of that means squaring and making right by other nations and other people. How you treat others is going to define what kind of government and what kind of country we are. You know, Nick Fuentes, by the way, who I'm mentioning again because he accused me and our organization of killing Charlie Kirk, he goes around saying that he supports regime change. He supports going to Venezuela and terrorizing and murdering all the children there and traumatizing them with generational trauma of getting bombed and devastation and war. He says, this is cool. It's like imperialism is cool. Colonialism, it's tough. It makes you such a cool, tough person. And this is the same people that are talking about Christian nationalism. What about the basics of the Bible? Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not steal. What right do we have to go and intervene in Venezuela's domestic affairs? Tell Venezuela what it should do with its own natural resources. Does that reflect our values? Does that reflect our morals? We have no right. That's the brutal truth, is we have no right. We have absolutely no fucking right. In addition to all the material harm and devastating consequences of regime change, of foreign intervention, all of that materially harms our nation. That's a fact. But in addition to that fact, why should we not be cognizant of the moral dimension? Why should we not be responsible for the moral dimension of what our regime is doing around the world? How can you live with yourself being an accomplice to this level of savagery, banditry, criminality? They say, well, it's a tough world. That's the nature of the world. No, the nature of the world is governed by principles. Sometimes principles enter this world in a violent way by conquering powers. But you have to own your principles, okay? The Romans savagely conquered a bunch of different people, but they were owned by their principles. Because even at the height of its power, Rome, which had conquered Egypt, which had conquered Syria, which had conquered Gaul, which had conquered Europe, the question then was turned inward. What principles do we stand for as Rome? The majority of the citizens were landless, destitute. The Senate was full of usurious oligarchs, landowners, elites. Rome had to eat and be accountable to the principles it upheld as a sanction and a right to conquer and devastate other peoples. We have to own our principles. It's principles which govern the world, not the law of the jungle. There is a law of the jungle, sure, but it's always in service to principles, because the principle at the end is what's going to be decisive. However mighty and powerful Rome was, it couldn't run away from its own principles. And the decadence and corruption of these principles toppled Rome, first as a republic, then as an empire. Same thing is happening to our country. You can only project power and have this attitude if it reflects your principles. It does not reflect our principles to torture and enslave and destroy peoples. We define peoples in a specific way. Even our founding fathers did. Every man is born free. Every man is born free with God-given rights and a God-given dignity. Every man, not just U.S. citizens. We can't govern and control the world and impose our values on the world, but we sure as hell can reflect our values in how we treat others, other nations and other peoples. We respect people's right to self-determination. We respect the fact that they have their own history, their own governance, their own struggles. We can absolutely respect that fact, while simultaneously treating those organs of a people's popular sovereignty in ways that reflect and betray a recognition of our own. That's what it means to respect the self-determination of other people. It doesn't mean you necessarily agree with all the governments in the world and how they run their affairs, but it means just like we have our own self-determination, you have your own. That's the principle upon which our popular sovereignty stands. Right? And some people say, well, you communists, you're a bunch of atheists, so why would you even care? But you know what's interesting? The communists of the past, I'll tell you the truth, they were so sickened by the corruption of the priests and how they were bought out. How many of them were, and I'll be frank with you, prostitutes of the ruling capitalist elite. Just bought out with money. Not all, but many. And communists were sick to their stomach. So they said, enough with all the religious anything, because it's being used to swindle and scam people. But you know, we have a mature and developed view. We can see that ultimately what the prophets in the past, what Jesus Christ was fighting for, is the same thing we're fighting for. That's what happens when you study history and you learn history. You learn that what Jesus was fighting for is the same thing we're fighting for. It requires more education. It requires more introspection and contemplation. There's nothing brave, there's nothing courageous about advocating to murder and slaughter foreign peoples. You're a disgusting coward if this is what you believe. We don't separate moral authority from material authority. The two are one and the same. That's what our materialism means. Okay? You don't have to indulge in metaphysics and gibberish to comprehend the basic fact that how you treat other people and other nations is an indictment on you. A nation cannot be free if it oppresses other nations. These principles are not empty words. They're not hollow. You shouldn't be cynical about them, because Rome could be the most powerful empire that took the entire Mediterranean and is still collapsed on the head of its decadent, faulty principles. And these principles are reflected materially, absolutely. I'm not saying morals and ideals are what build empires and found empires, but they certainly reflect them. they certainly reflect the material principles, and there are material principles. They're functional principles that define the relations of production, the patterns of production. I don't have to get into it. But in any case, our country's going straight to hell with these foreign interventions and entanglements. That's the takeaway here. So, we're patriots, okay? We don't hate our own nation just because we think our regime and our government is corrupt and rotten. We care about the people of this nation, and we care about its history. We care about its revolutionary history and its heritage. So the Sons of Liberty built a republic from below. So Texas went to Enchanted Rock to inspire themselves with that spirit.
My name's Seymour. I am the chapter executive here for the Texas chapter of the American Communist Party. We are currently at the summit of Enchanted Rock on a camping trip. When I look around at all of the people that we have here with us today, cadre and reserves that come from literally every walk of life. We have former conservatives, former libertarians, former Bernie bros, people that come from literally every political strain. Unites us is an acknowledgement that the traditional way of doing politics in the United States is dead, and it's been dead for a long time. And I think especially the folks that come from the MAGA movement and the OG Bernie bros that coalesce in ACP represent the pipelines that are still alive.
See, some of you guys were here for the populist moment in 2015, 2016, the one that the system tried to erase from our memory. Every one of you who lived through that, we're the spiritual successor, okay? We're trying to be, at least. We're trying to keep the energy going because there's an alternative for politics in this country that was forgotten about and erased by Bernie, who sold out, by Trump, who sold out. And they're trying to make us forget this, to enslave us to this rotten duopoly.
In American politics, and those are the populist pipelines. How do you think young people can turn their outrage into constructive political action?
I think young people need to build their tribe, despite maybe their differences, their different races or different classes. I think they got to realize we're on a sinking ship. We got to build the ark that can last the coming floods.
We need a third party, just like the Republicans were a third party in the age of Lincoln. We needed that in order to free the slaves. We need the same thing today in order to free the American people from a rogue government.
The Chinese came out of the Opium Wars and the Century of Humiliation. They were down bad. If America is too, then we got to figure something new out. It's like Mao's long march. Up a hill, up a rock.
So look, guys, if you're a dissident, it's even hard to find like-minded people. We are the tribe for you. Stop wallowing in misery and despair. It's an ugly time in world politics. Okay, the axis of resistance has gotten dismantled. Israel seems to be getting away with it. State of U.S. politics is totally cooked. We're not claiming we have all the answers, but we're claiming we are the tribe that is looking for the answers. So join your tribe. Join your people. That's what we are. Just don't be too weird, okay? And we'll be fine. Just be normal. Just be normal, okay? We're trying to learn what it means to... When I say exist collectively, I don't mean like share your home and all this stuff. But, you know, I mean like have a tribe, have a community. You know? Have something to belong to as Americans. That's what it means to be an American communist. We're a very individualistic country, and that's fine. For a lot of people, that's how they protect their dignity from swindlers and scammers. So that's totally understandable. But we need to take an extra step if we want to persevere amidst what is going to be ugly, ugly times, okay? We need to take an extra step and learn how to exist collectively in some way. You know, how to be part of something bigger than just yourself. Because the social foundations upon which our country rests are being torn to shreds. The ones we take for granted, you know? And the first thing, it's going to be the racial stuff. It's going to be the racial shit, you know? Which we're already seeing, you know, by the way. Let's continue. ACP California joined with the Sierra Service Project to build a new community garden. Okay? How do we grow food? How do we farm? See, we're not a cult. We're not telling you to change your lifestyle. We're not telling you to change your entire life. Just, it doesn't hurt here or there to join, you know, and join these kind of activities. It doesn't hurt to have a community. It doesn't hurt to be part of something. We don't impose a lifestyle on you. We don't impose a culture on you. We're not asking you to change everything about yourself and change everything you know. That's not what our party does. It's not what it is. We're not telling you we want to go, you know, live in a compound somewhere. You live a normal life, you have a job, you have whatever. I mean, you have your private life. And then this is something that you can do in addition to all that. And be part of in addition to all of that. Pennsylvania doing more good community service. This is another thing our party's been involved in for a very long time. I mean, there's a huge backlog. I show you everything. We're organizing drayage truckers. So drayage truckers are misclassified as independent contractors. Despite the fact that only a small handful of companies employ all of them, and they're like employees, they don't choose their own hours. There's so many restrictions imposed on them. They can't go work for other companies. They're not freelance. They're tied to one company that they have an exclusive contract with, but they're still classified as independent contractors. So they're getting scammed and they're getting ripped off.
Drivers are sick of it. They're fed up. Rates have been going down and down and down since COVID. Drivers are tired of these fat cat middlemen like DHL, FedEx, TQL, just scraping profits out of the middle while these drivers are struggling to survive.
The Port of Norfolk, Virginia does over $100 billion in total cargo value per year. But how much of that is being seen by these drayage drivers who are the crucial first step in getting these goods out of the ports and into our homes? For too long, these drivers have suffered from all the same problems we've seen in ports across the country. Misclassification, long wait times, and above all, diminishing rates in a time when the cost of everything else is increasing. That's why the ACP is here to give these drivers knowledge about what their rights are, the history of labor organizing, and how to organize to fight for better conditions today.
So I've been at the port in Newark. I was at the port in Los Angeles myself. This is the real deal, guys. You got to start from somewhere. shout out some of our East Coast and Southern chapters. They were first involved in this, in the Newark port specifically. So recently, Poland banned the Communist Party there because Poland is ruled by a NATO fascist state. It's an occupied country. It's turned into a welfare queen of the EU. So we protested in front of the Polish embassy. HB Virginia did. Because they declared the Communist Party there illegal. Right on the cusp of Poland preparing for war with Russia, by the way. Another thing we do, we hold our elected officials accountable. So HCP Florida went to the city council regarding the topic of Venezuela.
A pedophile ring wants to destroy democracy in Venezuela.
This is not the time to go looking for new foreign entanglements.
Instead of releasing the Epstein files, they send warships to kill fishermen in Venezuela.
Why do we need to overthrow Venezuela? This is the time to fix our own house.
Our country is reaching an inevitable crisis.
Hardworking people cannot afford rent.
Children are no longer safe in schools.
Seniors are choosing between groceries and medicine.
Streets are riddled with fentanyl and other powerful drugs.
Entire neighborhoods are being priced out of existence.
Women are resorting to prostitution.
Our youth, the future of this nation, are directionless.
These are the problems we should be focusing our capital into, not spending millions to cover up a national sex ring.
This is getting a little bit hot in here.
They give handouts for the rich, but not for the hard workers of this great land.
We have destroyers, ships, going to Venezuela when I need textbooks in my classroom. My school and my classroom has to cut corners so that we...
I love this guy. I met him in Florida. He's hilarious. Great guy.
Can wage another war for...
So, we have a sense of humor in our party as well. You know, we're not... what we're doing is very serious, but we're not like... we're not condescending about it, you know?
Oil.
It is the interest of big oil to take and plunder oil away completely from Venezuela as it had with other nations in the past.
They want to turn it into Syria, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Palestine, Iraq, Libya, full of slaves and despots.
That's why I appeal to you as community leaders to put forward a declaration in protest of the continuation of the wasteful spending that we have in this country.
To concede to the will of greedy pedophiles and imperialists is the equivalent of digging our own graves.
We have a lot of money in this country. This country is the richest country in the world. But our schools should show it, and our children should enjoy it.
We as Americans say no to genocide, no to an invasion, and yes to peace, peace, and peace.
Enough is enough.
No to war, yes to peace, and yes to a sovereign democratic Venezuela.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, commissioners, for giving me your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Iowa came out to support the Teamsters and the United Nurses in Iowa in their unionization campaign. We've got about 33 chapters across the country. Michigan volunteered at a local children's meal program. ACP Maine partakes in the first ever strike in Holton alongside nurses because of the neglect of rural healthcare, because rural infrastructure and healthcare is in shambles in this country, because we're ruled by people who just don't fucking care about the people who live here. And it's always going to be as simple as that. New York went to West Harlem, in the city, by the way, so this is the opposite of the rule. And they looked at the landlords over there and what they've been doing, and the state of neglect. I'm not going to show you this entire video. I'll show you some.
Alone. If somebody's not dead, there's nothing we can do about it. And then somebody died.
We're calling it the House of Horrors. So I recommend you guys go watch this yourself, because it's a long video. We're not going to watch all of it. But, okay. So everything, it took about, everything I just showed you guys was just what we've posted, or not even what we've posted, what the main account which sometimes is not up to speed, by the way, has retweeted in the past month. This is December. What I just showed you is December. That's just the past month. This is not even an extraordinarily active month for our party, by the way. So that was just the past month. And people claim that we're online, we're terminally on, we're just online, we don't exist in the real world. Okay. What I just showed you was just the past month. Okay. From all sorts of different states across the entire country. Okay. This was another charitable event that this was in Dearborn, Michigan, that the Michigan chapter participated in. Food supplies and literature, Islamic literature. You know, we don't, religious people, Christian, Muslim, our party is not anti-religion. We're not anti-religious people. And our Constitution upholds respect for the religious beliefs of people, you know? So look, this is something the California chapter's gone viral a few times for, is that they teach basic skills, okay? Job training skills.
So we're in the warehouse once again, doing our third and final carpentry job training to support a local business. We're building benches, which will be used to the benefit of the business. We're doing this because it's something that's got to be done, and when something needs to be done, we can't always depend on somebody else to be able to do it. We need to be able to do the things that need to get done. And as simple as that sounds, that's very important to us. It is how we unite our theory with practice and close the gap in the disconnection that we have between production and the commodity. Like, for example, a park bench or the tables in a restaurant, they're taken for granted. They're taken at face value. Today, people are very disconnected from the actual production and manufacturing process that gives us the things that we use every day.
It'd be useful to learn, you know, and if we're assuming fucking chaos and anarchy is coming to this country, which it is, you're going to have to learn these things, okay? And we're not claiming to have all the knowledge or all the answers either. That's why we want you to join, because plenty of you have knowledge, plenty of you have skills, plenty of you have wisdom. Join. This is the tribe for you, if you care about the future of this country.
Whether it's the bench that you sit on at a business, like we're making out here today, or the table at a restaurant.
So, for example, initiatives like this only happen because Comrade Isaac and Comrade Huey led the first one, I believe, are blue-collar workers themselves who actually have these skills. So all they're doing is teaching the skills they have to the other comrades within our party. So that's how our party works. You take the skills that you have, you use them to the benefit of the organization and ultimately the American people.
Even the door that you walk through, or the walls and the frames. This is very important to us, specifically at the American Communist.
See, I have a lot of knowledge of Marxism. I have a lot of knowledge about how Marxism can be adapted to the 21st century. I have a lot of familiarity with the history of Marxism and communism. I have a very coherent worldview, you know. I have an outlook, a type of consciousness. You know, I have a strategic whatever. So I bring some things to the table, but I don't know how to fucking do this. I don't know how to do this shit. So in this way, people who join our party, they bring things to the table that we all benefit from. I mean, I was supposed to be in California. There was mix up in the schedule. I was supposed, because I need to learn this shit. I don't know how to fucking do this. I need Huey to teach me how to do this shit, you know? So, Huey and Isaac. So it's like, this is the nature of our party, you know? It's not, we don't just have one person imposing all their shit on everybody else. We're learning from each other.
Party. Because we intend to build something for the working class that survives the collapse of bourgeois society.
It's as simple as that, you know? California again. I don't know why I keep exiting out of this. Demonstration of practical skills. They assisted a community member in breaking down and removing scrap. Despite the simplicity, you know, it exemplifies commitment. There you go. It's as simple as that. Hey, is this some giant, huge project? No. But it's something, and a lot of small somethings add up to a big something. Okay? You got to start from somewhere. You got to start from somewhere. You got to build from something. That's what it means to have confidence and vision. That you can start with something small and make it very, very big as long as you cultivate it and tend to it. Because it's not going to fall out of the sky. And I'm here showing you this. Yes, you who's watching this. I'm showing you this because you're the missing factor. We have a very, very solid, functional, working organization. You compare us to any other Marxist organization in this country. We're doing the work. They're not. We're doing the work. What I've showed you is maybe a month and a half of just what our main has retweeted, okay? Not even everything goes online. Most doesn't go online, actually. Okay? So, this works. This system we have works. This organization we have works. We launched it, and it was a bumpy start. Well, of course it is. You know, we started from scratch, basically. We took what worked from the CPUSA, which is their club model, you know, and we adapted it in a way that's much better based on the experiences people had in that organization and other organizations. And the system works. Very little of what I do is give people orders. I'll tell you that much. I'm executive chairman of the party. Very little of what I do is giving people orders. Very little. Most of what I do is articulating the vision forward, the strategy forward. So positive stuff, not sitting here bossing people around, telling them what to do. Okay? That's the kind of party that we are. And join and see for yourself if you don't believe me. This is ACP Michigan. I didn't mean to skip over that. New Mexico was at the Native Heritage Festival. They tabled there. So another thing we do is we table. Wow. Food drive. California, they were showing solidarity with the union effort.
We are not parasites, we are nurses.
Pennsylvania did more work. We're going back, you know, the drayage trucking. Look, HP Oregon disrupted the Senator Ron Wyden. Check this out. Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna stand up and do this shit? You gotta start with something. We're starting with a principle.
Everyone, Ron White. My name is Quinn, and I'm representing not only the American Communist Party, but I'm also representing the working class of Oregonians. Since October 7, 2023, the United States government has given the Israeli regime $17.2 billion in aid. This not only goes to their military spending, but it also goes to their pensions and universal health care. You have voted every time in favor of funding and arming Israel while they are actively committing a genocide of the Palestinian people. During our time, Oregon's homelessness has increased by 16% since 2023, and there are 224,000 Oregonians since 2023 that have been let go of their health care benefits. Literally last week, a man in Portland died by running over a pothole. Maybe you would see these social issues if you actually lived in the state and not in New York. You just promoting progressive values with your voting record and arming Israel and foreign policy is anything but progressive. Supporting a genocidal right-wing regime is anything but progressive. I call on you.
So you have two options. You can go to bed despairing and depressed, or you can stand up. We're giving you that option to stand up, because that's what this comrade is doing right here. He's standing up.
This man from taking any money from APAC and start focusing on issues here in America, issues here at home, issues that the Oregonians can be impacted by. There's no reason why we should have this disparity in wealth and equality in America. There's no reason why why veterans should be sleeping underneath bridges. You need to commit to stop sending funds to foreign wars and start focusing on issues in America. Thank you.
So I recommend you go watch the full video. Look, in Colorado, they were doing the same thing as the East Coast, as LA with the drayage truckers. They're reaching out to the truckers. Nobody else is doing this, by the way. Everyone else gave up.
The 100.
Oh, this is the event I wanted to go to, but I missed. The celebration. And we do events, we do ceremonial events, because communism has a history, and we honor that history, you know? And this is the anniversary of the October Revolution. You know, and by the way, not everything our party does is just work. We also do recreation, you know? We're here to connect people. That's the most important thing.
We're here to celebrate the 108th anniversary of the October Revolution. We're just getting together with some comrades, some people from the community, having food, you know, having some drinks, having a good time.
Communism, it is in the name, community.
So if you're an outsider, you just come to an event like this, all your questions, there's people who will answer your questions, you know? And you can get to know what kind of people we are and who we are and all that.
Social.
You don't even necessarily have to commit first. You can just see for yourself what we're all about first.
Without a community, we're nothing.
If you're on the far right and you think, oh, you know, I don't know, Candace Owens, who I like, but sometimes she says some ridiculous things, like the stuff about the Bolsheviks being all Jewish or something, or mostly Jewish, Zionists or something. You know, if you're on the far right and you think that we're a bunch of Jewish Zionists or whatever, or even that we're all Jews or something, which would be odd, you know. Not saying there's something wrong with being Jewish. I'm just saying it would be odd because it's such a small population. Well, just come see us and see for yourself, you know.
About building a socialist state to even have a state there.
You can learn who we are and see who we are yourself. You don't have to be so alienated by this nonsense you see on the internet.
There has to be a community.
When you look at all the other parties in this country, you have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they're totally dead parties. They don't represent the working people at all, and they haven't done anything for anybody in decades.
When the October...
So again, this is all on x.com/ACPmain. You can watch our videos there. Look how cool this is. So in Saginaw, the Michigan chapter, look what they did.
So our plans for this property are multifaceted. There's about an acre of greenhouses that we plan to fix up and use to actually grow plants, decorative plants, food plants. This place used to be a plant nursery, so we want to revitalize that business and sell some like flowers and things like that. But also, we want to do some agricultural automation research with robotics and drones as a chapter enterprise, but also as a way to reach out to the rural, local farming communities. There's also beyond the agricultural aspect here, there's just a lot of space. There's warehouse space, storefront space, garage space. So we've got plans for using it as essentially a central hub for our chapter. We want to use it as a wood and metal fabrication facility, workshop. We want to have a screen printing facility here, book printing, large format printing for banners and flags and things like that. We want to, some of our comrades are planning on starting a bakery up in the front here, cafe, along with the plants and things that we sell. But all of the ideas that we have for this are kind of mutually supporting, mutually reinforcing. Each idea feeds into the other ideas and makes the chapter and the party as a whole stronger, makes our ties with the community stronger, makes our ability to outreach stronger, makes our ability to help people stronger, and also just gives us the experience in building and running something like this, or multiple things like this. So we are very excited about the opportunities that we have here, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, for sure. This thing is a mess, but it's a good mess, and we are very excited about it. I'm Comrade Jay, Economic and Industrial Planning Officer, Michigan Chapter,
I want to show you some more videos before I tell you more. This is Michigan again.
A foundation for working class power that no one else in America is daring to create. Today, we are out here rebuilding a home from the ground up in a neighborhood gutted by financial capital and decades of deindustrialization. We're helping our communities reclaim dignity and autonomy, constructing a bulwark against the landlords and monopolists who would see us displaced. But this is only the beginning, the first step in our 5-year plan. From this project will rise a worker-owned construction enterprise capable of transforming entire neighborhoods and raising new homes where there is now only neglect. This effort will grow hand in hand with our other party initiatives, all aimed at supporting workers in struggle, repairing the infrastructure our government has abandoned, delivering aid to those left behind, and most importantly, building true working class sovereignty. We don't just talk about labor, we live it through our work. We're giving members real skills, real jobs, and real purpose. Only the American Communist Party, the ACP, has the vision, the courage, and the will to build a new world, one brick, one block, one worker at a time.
There's honestly so much. So I went to China in October. Posted a little about that.
America are getting jacked. In 1917...
So hold on, there's... Fox News covered this. Okay, Jesse Waters on Fox News covered this and confronted Stephen Miller about it. And he said we were Democrats, which is wrong. But he's like, these guys are training. Should we be worried? It's incredible. Zionist Fox News covered this.
All right, let's go. I'm going to start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Today we're out here at our first ever PT session. The PT sessions that we have planned are going to be monthly, and the idea is that cadre need to not only be mentally fit, but physically fit, and the two go hand in hand. In a capitalist society, you're made to be a passive consumer. As communists, the goal is to make ourselves into extremely productive members of society. The intellectuals need to become workers, and the workers need to become intellectuals. And only by that kind of symbiotic relationship of us educating each other can we kind of overcome these class divides that are fake. You know, no worker should think that they cannot be as cutting edge in terms of their theory and knowledge.
Right, we are a party of workers. We took a census. Majority of our party is working class. I think 30 to 50 are blue-collar workers in our party.
As those in the
30 to 50%.
Ivory Tower in Harvard, Yale, Ivy Leagues, whatever. And likewise, intellectuals can no longer be those people that just sit idly in their armchair and theorize. They need to get practically involved on the ground to understand how their theories impact reality and how reality then shapes their theories. So if you're interested in not just reading books...
So a third of our party are just blue-collar workers. The overwhelming majority are workers, but a third are blue-collar workers. There's not a single other Marxist organization you're going to find with that kind of composition.
But actually getting out here early in the morning, training with us, getting disciplined, and collectively working together, then we're the party for you.
Approved. So there's so much. I want to show you the disaster relief stuff. This is Illinois was planting trees, getting that Gucci bag, and living a vain, oh, this is me, self-centered life. What's the point? So what is life for? You know, what is it really for? Life is not about yourself. So that it's incredible. More organizing truck drivers. Comrade Huey, you know, this is the Los Angeles port. I'll just show you a little bit because there's so much. You got to go see this stuff for yourself. Jesus.
Such a...
Helped raise new beds for a neighbor devastated by the summer flooding. So this is some of the disaster relief.
Community.
So check this out.
ACP Texas was back in Sandy Creek this weekend to finally fill in the planners we made at the beginning of the month. It looks like the many weekends spent working long hours in the hot Texas sun are finally starting to pay off as we move deeper into this phase of helping to rebuild a community that has been hung out to dry. The friendships we've made and goodwill we've witnessed during our time here has only strengthened our belief in the true power that arises when the working class is organized and fighting together rather than amongst each other.
How high's the water, mama? 2 feet high and rising. How high's the water, papa? She said it's 2 feet high and rising. But we can make it to the road in a homemade boat, 'cause that's the only thing we got left that'll float. It's already over all the wheat and oats. 2 feet high and rising. How high's the water?
Now, if you're wondering how all this gets funded out of pocket, okay, each chapter, we don't control chapter finances from the center. So people pool together what they have, and this is how they do it. They pool together what little they have to do this. And it all comes out of pocket from our rank and file themselves. And the finances are decentralized, so we don't, you know, it's not like we have a center that takes all the money and then allocate it. No, it's not what we do, okay? You join your chapter, and you're there in person, and you figure out what you're going to do with your resources. That's how we build responsibility and accountability.
Water mama, 3 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 3 feet high and rising. Well, the hives are gone, I lost my bees, chickens are sleeping and the willow...
That's why we have so much activity. Because we're not imagine if we pooled all the resources to the center, then every time someone would want to do something, they'd have to ask permission. Oh, can we do this? We need this amount of... It'd be nonsense. It'd be a bureaucracy. So we run our party the American way. People take initiative and they just fucking do it. No bureaucracy, no red tape.
Trees, cows in water up past her knees, 3 feet high and rising. How high is the water, mama? 4 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 4 feet high and rising. Hey, come look through the window pane. The bus is coming, gonna take us to the train. Looks like we'll be blessed with a little more rain. 4 feet high and rising.
There are so many examples of disaster relief you can just find across the timeline. Ontario, I want to show...
Team of 8.
We're showing a lot. I want to show some of our Canadian chapters. They restored a home, North York, because an elderly tenant posted online that they needed help. So what did we do? ACP Ontario responded to the call.
What does it look like when communists step up to help their community? It's a team of 8 motivated and disciplined cadres showing up on a doorstep after a Hail Mary call for help on Kijiji got answered. Welcome to the information age. It's a brave new world. The job was to restore property for an elderly woman in North York by pruning 2 trees, removing stumps, relocating stones, transplanting vegetables to use space better, and creating a storage area. It sounds simple, but it took 2 full days of work, mainly because the tree had dozens of branches that all had to be cut down to size and tied into bundles.
And you know, maybe we should start uploading these to the YouTube channel. We have an American Communist Party YouTube channel. Should probably, going forward, we should upload all these to the YouTube.
The team brought chainsaws, sawzalls, shovels, rakes, axes, and hammers, and all of them saw heavy use. It took at least 10 blades to cut the stumps into small enough chunks to completely remove them. Don't even ask how many times the batteries had to be charged, but it was a constant rotation. This is what solidarity looks like. Not a poster, not a slogan. 8 disciplined cadre armed with a simple...
If you're on the media team and you're watching this, you should probably plug that in the media chat. Let's start every single one of these videos, because we decentralize everything. It's crazy. Even the production of media is decentralized. So guys, when chapters are making these videos, let's start downloading them, creating thumbnails, titles, everything. If you're in the media team, you're hearing this, you should put it in the media chat. Make it our New Year's resolution.
Principle: build stronger communities. A modern working class movement which isn't waiting for permission. We're building the world we want to see right now with our own hands.
So, this is Ontario chapter, because we have chapters in Canada, you know. There's so much we're missing. Okay, I want to show you the broadest spectrum possible. So I'll show you our southern chapters, some of our southern chapters.
In the American South. Southern communists love our grits, we love our barbecue, but most of all, we love our truckers. And that's why today the American Communist Party in the Carolinas are standing shoulder to shoulder with truckers here at Charleston Harbor. This is the 6th largest port in this country that sees...
So this is some of the trucking work. There was also the Southwest Summit. I want to show that. We attended protests for free Palestine. We got chapter in Utah, but unlike what Nick Fuentes says, we're not killing Charlie Kirk in Utah. We're trying to organize drayage truckers, okay? Ontario, again, assisting struggling workers to maintain their home and yard. Maine, assists a local homestead. We help farmers. This is another thing we do. Minnesota, join the picket line. I don't know if we retweeted the Southwest Summit. Well, you can check it out on their account. Outreach to homeless veterans. I think I might have been in this video. But yeah, this is how consistent the work they do is, you know. This video went viral. Okay, I want to show this to you from California.
We're here teaching some practical skills to our cadre members. We're teaching them how to pull a tape measure, how to use a skill saw, a table saw, building up that blue-collar culture and making sure that you know, they know the very basics of carpentry. Something that I think everybody should know and has slowly fallen out of the knowledge base of a lot of people in this country due to deindustrialization and the lack of public school funding and things of that nature. Another way to do it to make sure it stays in place, once it's down there, you just put your foot on it, and there you go. That is so convenient. You know, Los Angeles is definitely a place where we have issues with landlords who don't want to take care of people's homes. And so eventually we'd like to get to a point where we have an army of blue-collar workers with the practical skills necessary to send them out into the community to really help build up people's homes, businesses, so they don't have to rely on expensive contractors that are going to overcharge them and break the bank.
So job training is our idea of getting the members of the ACP to learn what is kind of around them. It's the kind of things that, you know, you might take for granted, but I think if you join the ACP, you'll get a little bit more hands-on experience with what a worker maybe is doing day to day. So that can be something that you carry with you. Okay, I know how this building was built, but you also have some practical skills.
We want to help teach those skills. We want to bring up the knowledge base of all the people in this community, because the more people who have these skills, the more they're going to be able to help themselves, right? Because, you know, no one's coming to save you, right? We all have to do our part.
There you go. You heard what Comrade Huey said. Nobody's coming to save you, okay? That's what we're all about. Nobody's coming to save you.
Learn these skills so that when these problems, we can face them head on. So come join the ACP and learn how to swing a hammer.
So guys, I want to talk a little bit about, well, why do we get flack? I think everyone can agree that we do good work, okay? We do positive work. So why do we get so much flack? Why all the controversy? And I'll tell you exactly why. Beyond bad faith Fed actors, you go on Reddit sometimes, you go on other places, you even go on YouTube and look at what some people try to make videos about us. They don't actually make videos about what we do. You'll never see in any of those videos anything I just showed you. You'll never see examples of what our party actually does as a party. What they'll do is they'll magnify and exaggerate some of the politically incorrect things that me or Jackson have said in the past. And it all boils down to a word I want to introduce you to: metaphysics, okay? It's just metaphysics. The people who have a problem with our party, they just have a problem with the fact that we're not politically correct in like an individual level. They have a problem that in our party, we don't run it like these leftist organizations, where if you're a white man, you have to sit down or feel like, because you're not as low on the oppression ladder, that you don't have an equal voice. We don't do these things. We don't gibber. We don't have these small, needless gibbering about pronouns, and, you know, we don't care about talking about transgenderism and trying to change people's sexual behaviors. We're not interested in like microaggression speech. We don't care about any of that. We're not into the racial stuff. I'm talking even on, you know, the leftist shit. We're not into the racial stuff where, you know, we're telling white people they need to sit down or something, or we're making white people. I mean, I just showed you the videos. Our party reflects the demographics of America. America's a majority white country, so the majority of our party is white. There's nothing wrong with that. And we don't have white guilt. So because of that fact, a lot of leftists demonize us as fascist. Well, don't let that trick you, okay? Because we're not fascists. Because fascism is the terroristic dictatorship of finance capital. Sometimes that pushes people to fascism when they hear leftists talk crazy like that. We also don't do performative feminism, okay? We treat men and women equally. End of story. No performative feminism. No men bowing their heads and apologizing for being men. Just normal equality, okay? So then they call us sexist because of that. They call us transphobic, homophobic, sexist, and racist because we don't do this performative metaphysical gibber and virtue signaling. We don't do that. We do work. We get to work. And nobody has ever raised a single rational objection to the work we do. Nor has anyone proposed an alternative. A lot of people like to critique our work and say it's not enough. And I say, what's your alternative? We have to start from somewhere. What's your alternative about what a communist party should be doing? Or what any party that wants to serve the American people should be doing? And propose an alternative to the powers that be. What should it be doing then? What would be an alternative to what we're doing? That's my $1 million question. And I'll look at the chat. Anyone who's got an alternative, I will be open-minded. I want to hear it. I want to hear what the alternative strategy is, besides what I just showed you. Now, why do people on the right hate us? You might be on the right. Your favorite right-wing influencer demonizes us and hates us a lot, usually. Well, why is that? Because we're not racists. You saw, although our party is majority white, there's plenty of people who are black and brown in it too. We have no tolerance for racism. We have no tolerance for racial identity politics. We consider that a form of separatism against the American national existence we're trying to build, which is absolutely multiracial. In fact, we don't even care for races. We're building an American nation. We want to be Americans. So we don't exclude people on race. We don't discriminate on race, and the right hates us for that. And as a matter of fact, the right says that we're anti-white, third worldists who are just brown and black people. That's not true. You saw the footage yourself. Unless I personally, from the center, methodically went through all that footage to doctor it and use AI to, you see that what our party is what I just showed you. And if you don't believe it, literally just go see with your own eyes yourself. Don't worry about the internet. Go see for yourself. Check it out yourself. I invite you. I invite you to join our party and see for yourself. Hey, do it as an undercover journalist for all I care. But just see, empirically verify what our party is yourself. And you'll find that all the nonsense that's said about us online, they're not good faith actors. They're bad faith actors. They're lying. They're distorting what we are. They're trying to make us seem like we're something that we're not because they have no alternative. And they're really upset about the fact that we provide one. You know, they'll throw labels on us that don't make any sense when you square them with the work we actually do. They'll throw all these different labels on us that don't even make sense. For example, one of the labels that's funny is they say LaRoucheite. What? What does Lyndon LaRouche have to do with anything we do? They say this because I spoke at the Schiller Institute 3 years ago, along with Jackson, because I accepted a speaking engagement opportunity as an online streamer. Okay, shoot me. So they say these weird things. It's all just metaphysics. It has nothing to do with real organization or real work or anything that exists in reality. It's just metaphysics. You know, judge us by our deeds. Judge us by what we do. If you don't believe the videos we put out reflect who we are, then join in person and see for yourself. Oh, the others, Yeah, the ones who try to Fed jacket us. Well, usually that's not sustainable because they try to do that against Jackson because Jackson's pretty aloof. But the fact that I'm there, they can't even do it. It doesn't even make sense. Because they see my streaming career and they see all this stuff and whatever. Another one they'll say is, well, this just exists to boost the streamers. Okay. I haven't streamed on YouTube, which is the only avenue for growth for me as a streamer and as a live streamer in 3 years or 2 years. And it's because the party launched that YouTube, I didn't even upload to my channel anymore. If I wanted to grift using the party, I would just have uploaded to YouTube and streamed on YouTube the entire time. Instead, I was on Kick with my existing community, okay? So that's a nonsense claim. I mean, there's all sorts of strange accusations people will try to make. And you know what, guys? I'll be right back. I genuinely have to use the bathroom. I'm not even kidding. I will be right back. Okay? All right. All right, guys. Yeah. So if you want to understand why the party has a bad rap, then just square it in a really simple way. Would the regime make it easy for anyone trying to do what we're doing? Do they control discourse? Of course they do. They control perception, they control discourse, they control narratives. Don't take my word for it. Just investigate yourself and see if the things that are being said about us square with what we actually do and what we actually are. Another angle people say is, well, you seem to be so friendly with Russia and China. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. Because Russia and China are sovereign states resisting the same Epstein regime empire that enslaves us. They are free peoples. People who are trying to win their own freedom should be friends with fellow free peoples. It's as simple as that. We're lied to a lot about China. We're lied to a lot about Russia. Most of you should know that. So, you know, it's as simple as that. That's what it comes down to. You know, and at the bare minimum, you know, you should. So I'll read the chat a little. How are Chinese people free though? They're not allowed to be individuals there. That's not true at all. I would say Chinese people have more freedom than we do when it comes to being individuals and speak their mind on things that actually matter.
Dark Energy added
NRG, what's up, bro?
to the war chest. ACP is the solution to the problems of America and the vehicle to make America great again.
Absolutely. What's up? Appreciate you, bro. Chinese people have more freedom, and I was in China and I saw this myself. What they don't have is the ability to challenge the regime without an alternative. You see, that's when you have to start thinking about what would it mean to topple the CPC in China. It would mean another 100 years of humiliation. It would mean civil war and the destruction of the entire nation. So the CPC is not going to let that happen. Do you have an alternative proposal about how they should be governing? Do you have an alternative proposal about how things should work in ways that actually tangibly affect you and the people around you? You have more freedom and leeway within China to see that to fruition than you do in America. You just don't have the freedom to advocate for another century of humiliation, for the destruction of the nation. You don't have that freedom in China. And why should you? What alternative could anyone be proposing to the CPC that can keep the state sovereign, unified? And because we know from history that the West wants to carve up, destroy, and plunder and enslave China. That's what they did in the 1800s. And only the communists and the CPC unified China and made it sovereign and independent. Look what we're trying to do to Venezuela right now, what our regime's trying to do. Every opportunity our regime gets, it plunders, destroys, and enslaves the people of the world on behalf of the international banksters. So China is right to be vigilant to suppress those who want to destroy its sovereignty within, domestic, and foreign. Okay? There's nothing about that that's unfree. That is what freedom is. Freedom is the ability to have safety, to have public transit, to have infrastructure, to pursue happiness, to have creativity, to explore alternative ways of you. Absolutely, China gives that freedom to its people. Absolutely. Also, it's a different civilization, which should be carefully understood. You know? So, you know, the problems people have with us boil down to metaphysics. They don't boil down to substance. And that how people treat us should tell you a lot about the propaganda about Russia and China, because it's a proxy for that same brainwashing and altering and bending perception that, you know, our regime is so accustomed to. And the media is so accustomed to, you know? So guys, you know, I'm going to be, and I want to tell you about the new year. I'm not sure I'll be streaming on YouTube in 2025 again. I'm hoping to pick up the pace in 2026. And I'll be streaming on off days again. And Jackson, literally shut the fuck up. It's actually pissing me off. Why did I give Jackson mod? I should not have given him mod. He literally does this shit. By the way, he'll call me, and then he'll just fucking repeat what I'm saying. I'll be like, yo, what's up? He'll be like, yo, what's up? I'll be like, what is this about? Hello, what is it about? Bro, actual child, literally. This is why Ukraine put him on the kill list. Fuck, I actually shouldn't joke about that. It's a fucked up. Too far. That's too far. But, yeah. I'm saying it's too far because they're still targeting him. Like, he's actually still on that list. It's not like from the past. So, Jesus Christ. It's fucked up. Anyway. Ukraine wants to kill me, Jackson, and Chris, who's on our executive board. By the way. So we're all, yeah. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So I stream on Kick, and I'm not going to quit streaming on Kick entirely. For January, I might just come to YouTube entirely. But guys, you know, the YouTube streams tend to be more serious. They tend to be more whatever. And we're definitely... Here's something I want to do. I want to do for future streams, okay? Okay, first of all, one's in the chat if you're a brand new viewer and not from the community. Okay. So something I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hosting call-ins, okay? Future streams are going to be call-ins. For debates, for all sorts of things. So there's going to be call-ins. We're going to get the Discord link working. You should definitely infrared.gg and then click the Discord link. You should join our Discord. You should, and acp.us, okay? Join ACP. If you're not ready to join ACP, join the infrared community. Join IGG, okay? So we'll be doing call-ins. We'll be doing debates. We'll be doing things of that nature. And, you know, hopefully this will be an opportunity because it seems like the era of YouTube censorship is coming to a close, and there's going to be more flexibility and more freedom on the platform to be, you know, to just not have to worry about walking on eggshells all the time. By the way, funny story about the channel, okay? I haven't uploaded in like a year. I'm planning on uploading one more thing before the year ends. It was something I did in China. But I haven't had time, you know? So I might look into be hiring someone to be doing that. But I want to tell you guys something. My channel got hijacked months ago because one of the people that I gave permissions to upload, who was a former editor, his account got hijacked, right? So then they used the permissions they had on their original account to take over my channel. And for about 1 day or two, the infrared channel, which is this channel, got hijacked and turned into a Ripple account. And a well-known scam, you know? So I wrestled, I got the channel back. But because of that, I think my algorithm got tanked a little bit. So here's something I would appreciate, guys. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And be sure to comment. Leave a comment and hit the like button to fix my algorithm, you know? Because when the account got hacked, you're not able to comment. Maybe after the video's done. I want to make sure that my settings are going to publish. I have not streamed in a long time, guys. I want to make sure my settings will, in fact, publish this stream. Okay. Not sure how that works. I'll leave the stream up, or, you know, when it's done. I'll leave it up. The welfare queen. Oh, somebody in my chat. I'm gonna be looking at chat now. Someone in my chat named Julian is calling me a welfare queen. Can you explain how that fucking works? Can you? I would love some welfare actually. Actually, I made Jennifer donated 50 on this stream, and then NRG donated 25. I have not. This is not a heavily monetized stream, okay? Because YouTube takes 30%. Oh, from Jackson. Oh, from Jackson, who will provide the viewers. Yeah, well, of course, yeah. Well, that's the thing, guys. That's how it works, you know? Jackson goes viral so that I could have the free time to cultivate that infrared vision, you know? And this and Jackson gets tons and tons of viewers and tons of concurrent viewers, and, you know, he gets this huge following so that the most elite spec ops among them can join infrared, join IGG, and then the American Communist Party. So that's really how it works, you know? Nope. I never built up Jackson in any capacity, actually. The most was Twitch, which he never even got views on. No, Jackson totally built himself up. All I did was that I recognized that he was going to blow up in the beginning. In the beginning, I said, when he didn't get like a ton of viewers, I was like, for sure, Jackson's going to become super famous, which I knew, you know? So I was like an early believer. So yeah. And you know, Jackson does what I cannot do. He does what I cannot do. He does what I cannot do because he has a better work ethic and because he has more of a patience and a tact for news. I don't have patience for news at all. I don't enjoy covering news. And I barely follow with it, to be honest. I'm more focused on theory. I'm more focused on, you know, the ideas, and it's much more niche. You know, there's much less of a broad appeal. Wingstop? Okay, I don't think I've ever eaten from Wingstop in my life, which maybe I should. It might be good. Yeah, my ability to grow. There's no such thing as being able to grow by yourself, by the way, on the internet. It's just not possible. You have to network with people who are already famous in some kind of way. And you know, that's what I was doing on Twitch before I was banned. You know, I knew a lot of different communities. I crossed over with many. And that's basically the crux of how any growth happens. So since then, it's mainly thanks to Jackson's on YouTube, you know, mainly thanks to Jackson that I was able to grow more. And then, you know, for years our community's been kind of isolated, to be honest. We've been very self-contained, you know, we kept going strong and stuff for sure, but pretty niche. And in 2026, you know, I'm going in with the mentality that I want to bring more people in. I want to grow infrared. I want to grow IGG. I want to grow our community. And I want to get some fresh soldiers for our army, you know, for our movement. And then hopefully that translates into more people joining the Communist Party, American Communist Party. So that's really why I'm back on YouTube right now, you know. I was planning on a more ceremonial stream, but fuck it. You know, I should just be like Jackson himself. Just because Jackson honestly came back to YouTube and he just started grinding. And that's it. Even though it's crazy he got fucking banned. He got perma-banned. He got perma-banned, okay? And then, and then he went to X, and then he just came back. And then YouTube just kind of unbanned him, or let him create a new account, I should say. You know? Party line on immigration. Part of our program is that we're against mass immigration in principle because it's a form of class warfare. And because in a socialist country, it's not a free-for-all. Okay? Immigration that affects economics has to be planned for. It's not a free-for-all. We don't give it up to the free market to determine immigration. You give it up to planning, rational planning. And sometimes you need immigration. There's skills others have that you don't, and you need them. And sometimes other countries need some of your people, okay? So there's exchanges you can make. There's all sorts of things that are possible. That's how it worked under communist systems. It was never a free-for-all. There's not a single communist state where it's a free-for-all. That being said, for as long as we are a country that is not defined, which we're not, because the only way you can be a country that's defined is through socialism in some way. You define a country in terms of what you do for your country and its people, okay? So for as long as we're under the system, we're against demonizing immigrants. We're against attacking immigrants. We're against these ways in which the regime uses to turn our attention, our hatred, and dehumanize immigrants. We're totally against that. Broken, I guess you're talking about environmental issues, which we take very seriously. We're in an ecological era. We absolutely need to take into account how industrial civilization affects the fundamental. I mean, you think about it this guy, for all we've advanced, human civilization still depends on rivers. For all we've advanced, we're still using the same ecological systems that we have for thousands of years. And industrial civilization, you know, when Marx talked about the metabolic rift, has had a disastrous effect on our relationship to that. So there's things we've taken for granted for a long time, like our dependency on freshwater sources, on aquifers, on rivers, on all sorts of things. For thousands of years, we've taken them for granted, and now we have a new relationship to those things, which we need to be responsible for. And that doesn't mean we need to cut back growth. It doesn't mean we need to degrow. It just means we need a new layer of responsivity and responsibility for the things we've taken for granted that come from nature and how we affect those things, you know? So that, and ecology is a branch of cybernetics. Ecology is a very important science. It's all about systems and how they're interconnected and how they work. It's absolute. I'll give you an example that I was told from China, which is brilliant, you know? They had a problem where on their solar panels, there was too much dust that was accumulating. So they had to create a new way to just direct water onto the the solar panels. It takes a lot of water to clear the dust. Okay. But the water led to the growth of a lot of plants. A lot of plants, which was starting to cover the solar panels. It's another problem. So what'd they do? They released goats to eat those, and they've created like an ecological system. You know, and that's ecology. Ecology doesn't mean reverse technology and reverse industry and go back to nature. Ecology means just understanding how everything's interconnected. So this is really brilliant, and that's what I mean when I say ecology, you know. So guys, the last time I streamed on YouTube, I mean, my lighting was horrible. I didn't have the setup that I have now. So everything's changed. ACP does not have a party line on Lysenkoism. I have a very strong personal view. The infrared, this is another thing people get confused. Infrared movement and ACP are heavily interconnected. But the memes and the prevailing trends within the infrared movement are not binding not inherently binding, like institutional official views, within the party. The official views of the party are enumerated in the capacity as a party. So, for example, if I wanted to somehow impose a specific line on biology within the party, I would have to introduce it to the Central Committee. I would probably have to make a convincing case to the party for why this should be the case. I don't imagine that would be particularly easy, because I can already anticipate what the response would be, which would be why. And I'd be like, I agree. Like, what would be the point of this? So it's not like ACP can just, everything I believe, it can just be imposed on the party. It's not how it works. Or everything I want to happen, for whatever reason, can just be imposed on the party. We tend to actually pretty uniformly agree on our common sense. Like, I would never introduce that idea for the party because it's stupid. But I'm, thankfully others have the same outlook as me, like, on things like that. They'd be like, yeah, that's stupid. So we read the room, we don't, it's not like the party is just a clown fest where, like, I could go, I'm the leader, so this is what you should. It's like, it's not how it fucking works. You got to make the case, Infrared is a different story, okay? The infrared community is not a party. The infrared movement, IGG, it's not a party. There are no binding obligations that are imposed upon you because you're a fan of my streams, or that you like the community and its memes and you enjoy its content. That doesn't impose anything on you, So it's two different things. They're related. Out of the infrared community came the party, but the same, the online community that is infrared is not one for one the party. Like, completely different, okay? The media collective, Infrared, it's ran by 11 showrunners, not all of whom are even in the party, because some are international. So, party is definitely run very differently than Infrared and the IGG Discord. If you're a member of the party, you don't even have to, like, care about Infrared at all. Some people in our party are just not members of IGG. A lot of them aren't. A lot of the members of our party don't tune into my streams, and they just kind of whatever, and that's totally fine. That's completely fine. Speaking of which, speaking of the party, we're trying to put out a Metal Gear Red podcast episode before the year ends. So if you don't know what that is, the American Communist Party has a YouTube channel. We have a podcast. We wanted to do it weekly. It's become more sporadic than that. We're trying to get one out before the year ends. So stay tuned for that. It's exciting stuff. The Metal Gear Red podcast includes me, Midwestern Marx guys, and Kyle, Jackson, Chris, all the people on the EB, plus guests that we want to bring. So yeah. Does the gene stuff? Well, it's an interesting topic, but it actually has a lot to do with how biology actually works. Which is that the Weismann barrier is oftentimes crossed very often, okay? For example, they just found a new study showing how if you work out and you do fitness and you exercise, those characteristics through RNA will be transmitted to your offspring. Your sperm will carry the RNA to the egg, and it'll shape the characteristics of your offspring. That crosses the Weismann barrier. So that scientists agree that the concept of a gene needs to be rethought at minimum. I, on the other hand, like to be a little more, bold in terms of the consequences and implications of what science has actually discovered when it comes to how heredity works. The Weismann barrier is not an absolute law. It gets crossed a lot. So therefore, do the math yourself as far as what that means. And by the way, the Weismann barrier, if you don't know this, the Weismann barrier is this idea that there's a barrier between the pure germline, the line of heredity, and the characteristics acquired and experienced by the organism. So Weismann, he would take rats, he would cut off their tails and breed them, and then you would observe the new generation of rats still grew tails. So he said, this is the barrier between the line of heredity and the experiences of the organism. There's no connection between those two things. It's only determined in one direction. The characteristics of an organism are determined by the gene, and anything that happens in the life of the organism has no feedback and cannot cross the barrier, into heredity. So it was a rejection of Lamarck. But Charles Darwin was a Lamarckist. A lot of people don't know this. Charles Darwin believed in Lamarckian heredity. He believed in the transmission of acquired characteristics, and he thought that was a fundamental part of natural selection. It was Morgan who himself reinterpreted Mendel's Punnett squares through Weismann that decided that neo-Darwinism means that all natural selection does is select for random mutations in organisms, and that's how speciation happens. But we see from the findings of modern microbiology and modern science, this is not the case. So, yeah. There's a lot of other things that, if you're a Marxist, you squint your eyes at a lot of the things that are conventionally held assumptions in science and then turn out to be right. So that's one of them. The other one is physics, okay? Modern physics is a completely underdeveloped field, okay? Because, and the key thing is that, Marxism is a dialectical outlook, which means we think the most fundamental substance of reality, of matter, if you will, is a relationality. It's not an atom, it's not a rigid, static thing. It's already a relationship of some kind. And that's a very ancient insight, okay? The yin and the yang, okay? The ancient kinds of dualism that existed since Babylonia, is a truism. But that's dialectics says there's an inherent relationality and polarity that things have, that they're not static atoms. They're already suspended in a relationality, and that's what, by the way, that's what modern physics proves. Black holes, I have nothing to say about that. I know Alan Woods and some Trotskyites were very bold in their claims about things like that. I am pretty not... I'm not too familiar with those kind of things. I'm really skeptical of our assumptions about the laws of thermodynamics, which are increasingly untenable in light of what we discover in particle physics, where those laws seem to break down, How do you square mathematics with dialectical materialism? Well, I think it was Engels who said math is a science of quantity. So how do you know quantities? So math doesn't actually imply pure ideas. That's a metaphysical extrapolation. What math does imply is the fact that being and the world is dialectical. It's made up of change. Nothing is static. So everything is divisible, and in the relationality between things, there's a divisibility, okay? So, for example, the most ancient forms of mathematics didn't come from Greece, okay? It's Greek mathematics that try to purport that math implies the Platonic pure ideas and pure forms. But before Greek mathematics, you had the Babylonian kind, you had the Egyptian kind, And those forms of mathematics were very much rooted in an ontological view. So you had I can't say it, I can only read it. How do you say it? The sexagesimal system in Babylon. It doesn't begin from a 1 and then adding 2, 3, 4. That's not how they had their mathematical system. The 1 itself was divided according to a sexagesimal pattern, okay? That's why it was base 60. And why it was divided into that pattern was because of observed changes in the day-night cycle and the seasons, okay? So it made the most sense. If they're trying... So the first thing you perceive as a human being is the fact there's changes in the seasons and the day and night cycle. There's changes in the stars, astrologically and astronomically. So this is what gives rise to mathematics. You first observe there are changes, and then when you try to rationalize and make sense of the patterns of the cosmos, that's what gives rise to math. It was the Greeks who invented a type of math that purported to be completely separate from the observed patterns of how the cosmos is undergoing constant motion, change, and development. So it was a secondary extrapolation that, okay, the mathematical object, the 1, that's actually the eternal idea. And it is in no way related to the actual development and changes we observe in the cosmos. And that viewpoint is a bluff. Because math only exists in the material world. That's where the only place math exists is in the material world. But our relationship to the material world is not direct. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, it means because the material world is dialectical, it's not a static substance like Spinoza would purport or something. Within our consciousness, what we're experiencing is a dialectical relationship to the material world. A specific way the dialectical nature of the cosmos and the material world is being reflected, okay, by our consciousness. There's a reflection going on, which is itself, a reflection or a cause of the dialectical nature of the universe, right? So this creates a sense of a difference between consciousness and the world that we can sense with our hands and our sensory organs, right? And in the object of our consciousness, therefore, appears to be something supersensible, which we translate as supermaterial. But the material object, real material objectivity, isn't just the senses, and it's certainly not just an object of consciousness. It's the integral unity. The integral unity that embeds both and determines both. So a real material object is not reducible to things that we feel with our senses. The reason we associate material substantiality with sensuousness is because sensuousness comes before conscious activity. You can feel things before you think about them, okay? So this creates a sense of priority when it comes to materiality versus the products of our mind. All things human beings do is a type of activity. Consciousness is an activity. Your brain, it's working in a material way. You can take a product of your consciousness and say, this is the ultimate reality. That's what Plato kind of did, right? So it's an idol. But you can do that. You don't have to only do that through consciousness. You can create a statue and say this statue is God. And people did do that. This is idol worship. Okay? So I think it was Jay Dyer, right? I think that's kind of why you're asking this, because this is a point he likes to make. This is why he wouldn't debate me, by the way. Because he makes this argument that math somehow proves materialism is impossible. But what that's missing, okay, is the fact that materialism isn't empiricism. It's not the same thing. And that Greek philosophy was a pagan form of idol worship. The idol in question was a product of thought that is reified into the ultimate God, you know? That has nothing in common with but that's not the Abrahamic God. The God of Abraham is not a Platonic form, okay? The God of Abraham is not the nous. The God of Abraham is not a thought or a product of mental activity. The God of Abraham, you know, if you read the Bible, revealed himself to Moses as the burning bush and said, I am what I am, as a burning bush. So that's the sublime. That's what we call it. Crosses over into the realm of the sublime, far beyond our rational faculties of thinking, of mental activity. God encompasses so much more than that in the Abrahamic tradition. Not a consciousness, not a thought, but a fundamental, integral, absolute, which is material, okay? So religion is materialist, philosophy is idealist. That's my provocative claim. Yeah, PJ's got it exactly right. What people think of materialism usually means some kind of combination of Spinoza and Descartes. That's what most people mean when they mean materialism. That's not the Marxist material. Marxist materialism is dialectical, okay? But the question of, okay, so, but what if math can be abstracted from patterns in the stars, in the cosmos, observed patterns, seasonal changes, other kinds of things, then what is it? What actually corresponds to it? What makes that abstraction possible? And the Marxist answer to that is man. Man does. Man is the measure of all things. Have you ever heard that saying from the Italian Renaissance? Man is the measure of all things. The universal thing that it can somehow be abstracted from all the things we observe, that gives math the capacity to be separate from, ontology and astronomy and so on, or astrology, I should say, is man. Man is the measure of all things. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, what these correspond to as abstractions is our ability to have insight and knowledge into the reality of change, which is a human ability, a human faculty. Dialectical materialism doesn't deny that knowledge is possible. It doesn't deny that you can have insight into necessity. It implies that. Okay, I really veered off from what the stream is about, guys. In any case, this will be my last YouTube stream for 2025. So hopefully, guys, I'll see you in the new year on YouTube. In the meantime, kick.com/infrared. I'm still going to be streaming there. I think Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays I'll be streaming there. If you want a more fun experience, go there. If you're just here for I don't know. We'll eventually we'll mix the cultures of Kick and YouTube. Eventually they'll be mixed, But YouTube, if I'll help with education. Some of the videos I have in the pipeline for YouTube are about education. They're about theory, they're about things like that. It's not just all memes. Kick is it's not all memes on Kick, but we do it more, we joke around more and stuff like that. But Yeah, we'll keep it consistent. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna sign off. See you guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, guys. We'll see you.